Welcome in, friends. My name is Scott Sagent. So good to have you here. I am ready for your homily, April 2024, and the title of this homily is Constraint. Not a bad deal. Today we're going to be talking about a little rune stone here that is up on my bear board, tarot board, tarot board. We got one here and one here. I'm not sure which is easier for you to see, but that is the runestone of Constraint. It's kind of an X looking italic X, and Constraint is one that comes up a lot in a lot of my readings. It came up in one for April. I forget what sign it was. I'm hearing Capricorn perhaps. I could be wrong about that, but it definitely came up for a sign. And I said, hey, we're going to talk about this in your homily, guys, for April. So why so negative? I'm trying to get you here to take an evolutionary step up by bringing this point up that what makes a word good or bad? If the definition doesn't intrinsically mean evil or nefarious or godlike and angelic, well, then it's neither good or bad. It's just a word. And the definition of constraint falls right down the middle of these. It has nothing to do with good or bad. So why do we assume the negative to it? Like I said, I'm trying to get you to step up here spiritually by just realizing that a word is neither good nor bad by itself. Constraint is one of those words that just has a negative stigma attached to it for no reason, because the definition of constraint is a limitation or restriction. So are limitations and restrictions bad? Not in general, not likely, and I'll give you examples of why that is. Even though it sounds like it's such a bad thing, it just has this negative stigma attached to it. It's very similar to the word smell. If you just say the word smell, people are going to assume it's negative without even knowing the context necessarily of what it is. Of course, if you throw a rose in somebody's face and say smell, they already know what they're going to smell. But if you leave that blank, what happens if I say in a neutral, normal tone, what is that smell? Are you going to assume that's a good smell or a bad smell? More than likely bad. Okay, so why do we hear the word smell and assume it's a bad smell? There's no reason to, but that's the way it goes. Well, the same thing with the word constraint. Constraint is very similar to that. So let's talk about how constraints can actually be a good thing. Let's imagine what life would look like with no limitations, no restrictions. At first, your first thought might be, well, that's going to be a great thing. Nothing holding me down, nothing slowing me down. Here I go, all the way to the top, the penthouse suite. And that's not how it works. Imagine life with no gravity. Everything would be chaotic mess everywhere. Okay, you need to have some natural order to things, and that's where constraint comes in. Constraint brings the order to it like gravity, and just like that natural law, I'm going to challenge you to bring this natural law of constraint into your own life. So imagine for a second what life would look like with no financial limitations. What if you spent freely all the time? Well, you'd be broke, more than likely. Most of us would. If, we just bought everything that we set our eyes on or imagined that we wanted or whatever. The money runs out, right? Unless you're one of the billionaires, super billionaires on this planet. Most of us are not that. So anyway, it would run out. It wouldn't work so good. You'd be homeless living under a bridge. You couldn't pay no bills. You couldn't get a place, all kinds of problems. Well, what about limitations, and what if no constraints on love? Okay, the love is the most powerful force in the universe. So why would we put constraints on that? Well, imagine if you loved everybody the same way you loved your wife or your husband or your boyfriend or girlfriend, or your brother or your sister. Okay, well, that needs to have some natural laws to it too. You don't want to go and be having an affairs on everybody. You don't want to be going and treating people too good either, because who's going to take advantage of that? Well, all the criminals would first of all. Anybody who's trying to manipulate you or get you to do something you don't necessarily want to do. So everything within limitations. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about health. Okay, limits on your health. What would happen if you ate all the sugar you wanted all the time, all the ice cream you wanted, all the sweets? Well, you'd probably be very big and not so healthy. Okay, so again, good, healthy, restrictions, it's very important. So now that we know how important restrictions and limitations actually are, let's put them to good use here and build a little code here. A code is a set of behaviors, basically, how you react to certain stimuli. Let me give you a simple example. You come to a stop sign, people do this driving all the time, and if you arrive at the stop sign the same time the next guy does, coming either across from you or on the right, on the left, doesn't matter, you get there at the same exact time. Who goes first? Well, you could have a simple code that says, you know what? Every time that happens, I'm just going to wait and let the other person go. It's a nice conservative approach. Hey, maybe that works for you. Or maybe your code is, if they're going to be lackadaisical about it, I'm just going to go. I'm going to take the initiative, be a little aggressive, and I'm going to go. So having a code is a way that you know how to react to that stimuli. So every time you get to it, you don't have to really think about what you're going to do. You just refer to this code, this kind of behavioral blueprint, so to speak, about what you're going to do. And this is something that can apply to all kinds of different things in life that you can set healthy boundaries towards. The gentleman who first introduced me to the concept of having a code, his name was Ron. I want to tell you a quick little story about one of Ron's codes. It's just a funny little blip in here, and I wouldn't be paying him homage to the guy who gave me the idea of a code if I didn't tell you this little story. So Ron's code was, he was a carrier. He liked to carry a gun with him for protection. Never had to use it, but he liked to carry it with him anyway. He felt safer with it. He was an older guy, older, frail gentleman. So anyway, he said that his code for the gun was, unless you're going to empty the entire gun, go through every single round, depending on what kind of gun it is, I guess, how many rounds are in the clip or in the barrel, right? Unless you're going to empty it all, you don't take it out to use it. If it's not that important that you need to empty the entire clip into, like let's say a bear is chasing you. Let's say this big guy's chasing you. Okay, well, you're going to have to empty the whole clip, empty the whole, every single round you got. Okay, so that's the importance of a code for him, okay, and it served him very well. He never had to take out his gun, from my understanding of things, never had to use it. And basically his code was, hey, if something is important enough where I have to do all this damage to it, then I'm going to do it. Otherwise, I'm not. And that is the importance of knowing your boundaries, healthy ones, of course. Now, perhaps the most exciting part of your April homily is that you get to write your own rules. You get to create your own code. I don't actually like the word rules because it's too black and white. You got to have a little bit of leeway in here, and that's why I like the term outline better. These are like bullet points of a code that you're creating, these constraints, these parameters of your own life, because you got to have some flexibility in here. For example, let's say your part of your code was that you're going to say, you know what, I'm not going to have extra sugar besides just my normal meals Monday through Friday. On the weekend, I can have a little treat, but Monday through Friday, my code is that there's going to be no sweets. Well, what if on Tuesday, on some random Tuesday, they have a great work party gathering, fun time at your work, and they have your favorite desserts, all the best sweets, it's just a decadent party. You know what? Are you going to not eat sweets on this Tuesday? You know that the work parties only happen once every 2 years. This is not going to be a deal next Tuesday or the Tuesday after that. So you got to have some flexibility here. Go have some sweets on Tuesday at your work party. Have a good time with your coworkers. So that's an example of the flexibility you got to have as you're creating your code. So now I get back to you. How can you implement positive, healthy constraints, restrictions, limitations into your life right now in April? And how would that benefit you in the future? That is what you're thinking about to really help solidify you getting there. That is what's going to give you the motivation to actually follow these boundaries that you're setting for yourself. They may be the limiting of the spending, or the certain things with love that you're going to either accept or not accept, or maybe with health restrictions. Hey, you know what? I'm going to only do this much health stuff. I'm going to set the line right there. I'm not going to go past it. Okay, these are all very healthy things. I could keep going with different categories and different examples, but that's not the point of this video. It's for you to figure this out for yourself. How can you do this? How can you create a code that works for you? Because it is so subjective. Everybody is so different. And there is no right or wrong answer. It's what's right for you. So I'm going to cut it off right there, guys. As you can see, constraints, not a bad deal, not a negative deal. You can use this toward your benefit. Implement some great positive changes. I hope you will. I'm confident that you will in April and through 2024.
I guess the fortune teller's right.